Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at some S3 storage that I found on the internet, and it is something interesting. So I'm going to show you how I'm using this S3 storage that I found. It's not Azure, it is not Backblaze, it's not Amazon, none of those things. This is just some random dude hosting the stuff, and I'm showing you how I'm using it and how I'm encrypting my data. Because I think that's important, and we'll get on that later. So let's get started here. First of all, I want to show you kind of the website that I'm looking at here, the website where I got this from. So kind of a backstory here is I found this guy on Twitter. It just popped up in my feed, or X. It looks kind of interesting. So it's kind of a hosting provider that I've never heard of. So kind of naturally, I was assuming it's going to be very cheap in terms of the cost of using their services, and that it was. So let's take a look here on the website. So this is backyardbandwidth.com, and this is just a few different services they offer here. So we've got a VPN service, which is 99 cents per month, S3 storage hosting, Splunk, premium rack hosting, and a VPS service. So I'm going to go top to bottom on these things and kind of give my thoughts on them. This is a company, they have not endorsed me, sponsored me, anything like that. Like I said, it's just some random dude I found on Twitter, or I don't know, I don't even know if it's a guy, to be honest with you. So it's just some random account I found on Twitter. So we have a VPN service here, basically USA, Germany, and Singapore locations. You enter in your email address right there, and you can sign up. I believe they just automated this installation process, which is kind of cool. So we have some S3 storage hosting, which is what I'll be talking about today. I'm using actually 2 terabytes. You can go up to 40 terabytes though, which is kind of cool. And it is about $6 per month per terabyte. So it's kind of right in line with like Azure Cool Storage, I think. Don't quote me on that. It's pretty reasonable pricing, and they don't have any ingress or egress costs, which is really big actually. So that's the thing with Azure. I'm using Azure Archive Storage for a lot of my backups. And the problem with that is that you upload to it, and then you actually have to pay. It's really cheap uploads, but you actually have to pay a lot of money to pull your data back down. So that's just something to consider. This is no ingress or egress costs. I don't think there's a 99.99 uptime guarantee personally, but that's just me. Going down, I've never heard of Splunk in my life. I don't even know what the heck that is, so we're going to keep going. Premium rack hosting, that's kind of cool. It's pretty low cost. $50 racking fee seems pretty reasonable. Private VLAN, okay. I mean, I'm guessing you get like a public IP as well. It doesn't say, but $150 per U per month, not too bad. VPS service, I actually emailed them to try to get a VPS, but they never responded to me. So I'm not sure if that is in process or what the deal is with that, but I emailed them. I just checked again, have not heard back from them. They answered my other question, but they have not provisioned the VM, and that was 3 days ago. So I don't know anything about the VPS service, but it does seem to be just an IPv6 address, unless you get a higher tier VM where you can get an IPv4. Going down, they got a contact form and some cool stuff down there. So they've got all their kind of FAQ stuff down there. And at the end of the day, I trust these people probably just as much as I trust Azure, which is pretty low. So with that being said, the reason I'm making this video in the first place is because I want to show you how I'm using the S3 storage, but how I'm encrypting the data on the S3 storage. So this is something that I never really thought about when I was originally getting Azure storage, but it makes perfect sense to me. So the thought is, like, when you upload your data to Azure, technically Azure could get hacked. Technically, maybe they have a bad employee that's trying to look at the data. I don't know. But same goes for backyard bandwidth. So if you upload their data, technically it is just visible to them on their end. They've got their privacy policy, but at the end of the day, it really just, if they're nosy, they could probably dig through it. And I'm assuming that's the same for Azure. I'm sure Azure has some more safety mechanisms in place. But a lot of big cloud companies, at the end of the day, if they get hacked or something, like, unless your data is end-to-end encrypted, it's really important to encrypt your data. So with that being said, I'm using Rclone for this project. I have backyard bandwidth S3 and the encrypted version. So essentially, on a basic level, what I'm doing here is I'm mounting the S3 storage just as a S3 object here in Rclone. And then on top of that, I'm mounting a encrypted data store, I guess, kind of ish, on top of that. So On a basic level, you could still mount any of these wherever you want, but at the end of the day, unless you had the exact decryption key in the password that I set, you're not going to be able to view the data because it is going to be encrypted. So all the data will go through the encrypted tunnel-ish, and then it will hit the S3 storage. So what this means is that backyard bandwidth theoretically cannot view my data, and if they were to get hacked or something, my data is just going to be a bunch of random bits, hopefully, that nobody can see. Now, obviously, I'm backing up to some rando storage. I don't know what they're doing over there, so um, it is what it is, but this is a lot more secure than just standard uploading your data. And I would venture to say in this video, that's part of the reason I'm making this video, is that if you are backing up to a cloud provider, you really should be encrypting your data. There's really no benefit to not encrypting it. I guess you can kind of view it through like a web portal, uh, like technically in Azure, I could go in, I could view my files, verify they're there, that kind of stuff. I would venture to say, though, it's probably in the name of security, it's probably not necessary to have that ability. You can just as easily mount it on a server, and I could even go in here, if I quit this, I could do a Rclone LSD, BBS3, dash encrypt, like that, and I have nothing in there. So, but if I do just the BBS3, you'll see that I do have that encryption file right there. I don't know if I need to blur that out. I'm going to blur that out. But basically, it really just does cover up your data, and it kind of masks it nicely. So the purpose of this video is not to scare you. It's at the end of the day, it's just where you put your trust in, and you should put your trust in nobody in the field of technology, really. There's the whole concept of zero trust, and this is kind of just continuing that idea to where you just encrypt your data everywhere and keep it at the utmost security, even if it's just backups. I mean, if you think about it, most of my VMs do have TPM chips, so that means I'm encrypting the disk through Lux encryption, which means there's a encryption at the TPM level, and I don't think that gets backed up through Proxmox. So when the backup runs, it'll be a encrypted VM file, which even if somebody got that, they can't really do anything with it. And then on top of that, now this data is encrypted at the data store level. So if someone were to get into the data store, they'd have the encrypted file, and it's very unlikely that they would easily be able to get into that. So that's kind of the topic of this video. It might be really boring. I'm sorry if this isn't in depth as my normal videos are. If you want to see how to configure this stuff, it's really, really easy. So if you go to Rclone Config, you type in N for new, and I'm going to move my face out of the way. You'll see here we have the option to make a new remote, which is what I did. Give it a name, so we'll say test. They have all kinds of different providers that you can use. I'm using S3, and I actually did a Minio S3 because that's what Backyard Bandwidth uses. And by the way, thanks to Backyard Bandwidth, they were a huge help in me setting this up. I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest, at the beginning, but they were very helpful, probably more helpful than they should have been. And they really helped me get this going. So with that being said, I use S3, but there's Google Drive on here, Google Photos, all kinds of standard websites. There's Dropbox on here, Azure Storage, AWS, etc. So basically, to select your storage, you go through the setup process, and you'll get your storage mounted. So it pretty much mounts any cloud storage as a, you can mount it as a just general file directory on your Linux server. And with that, basically from there, then you need to make another one, which is a crypt version, and I can do that now. So then with the crypt one, you'll essentially just take your bucket. So in my case, it was BBS3, and then you'll just put the colon there, and with a path, so I just did a blank path. So you basically then just put that path there, and then go through the setup process, just getting the encryption strings and stuff in your password to unlock it. And then you go through that process there, and you're pretty much done. Your data is encrypted. So the nice thing is, if you ever wanted to access this data from another server, you probably should do this. Rclone config file is the command you need to run. And if we cat this out, I'm gonna have to blur out a lot of stuff here, but cat this out, you'll be able to see that you've got the encrypted stuff down here. You basically just got to copy that section over to another server with Rclone, and then you can import and use the same data on another server. And the last thing I want to iterate in this video is how important it is to actually verify your backups. So up until probably really recently, I could not tell you with a straight face that I have actually tested my backups. I have recently gone through a couple VMs, downloaded them from my Azure backup, and restored them onto Proxmox, just to make sure it all works, because in theory the backups will work, but if it's not tested, I can't rely on that as a reliable option for a backup. So that is about it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking through. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video.